we've seen that customers who are part of loyalty programs buy 2 times more than non-loyalty customers. They have a 19% higher average order value. They spend 220% more per 90 days and have a 62% repeat customer rate. And if you're not developing your loyalty program, then you're leaving stacks of cash on the table. So a few episodes ago, and actually in episode 51, I talked about 5 things that we're doing for massive growth in 2023. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it, go watch it. I dive deep into 5 things. But the 5th thing that I actually talk about are loyalty programs, because there's something we're leaning into heavy, so that way, as we get into unpredictable times, right? We've heard since, in the United States at least, since Q3, we've officially been in a recession, right? We're over 6 months into it. But there hasn't been this massive like mic drop, searing pain moment. And so because we don't know when or if or how long that's going to last, where my mind goes as an entrepreneur and as a marketer, because that's what I live, breathe, and do, is how do we create predictability when it's not very predictable on a macroeconomic scale? And as our team sat down, as we analyzed a lot of things that have been working and not working in the previous year and the previous, actually not even the last year, just in the last 3 to 4 months, on the marketing fronts, there are things that we have seen do really, really well and things that haven't. But one of the things that has continued time and time again to create sustainability, to create predictability for our clients and the brands that we coach and that we work with, are loyalty programs. And so we're going to be leaning into these as a means of creating more stability in increasing orders from our already existing database, right? This is not new people. These are people that have already bought. They already have trust with us. They've already pulled out their credit card and given us money. And so here are a few stats. If you've never really gotten into loyalty programs, you don't really know what are the benefits of them, how do they really work exactly, how can I implement that for me and my business? I'll tell you what, I'm gonna cover those today. But there are a few things I want to just kind of read off some of these stats, and these are very, very interesting. So in a study done by Smile.io, which by the way is a loyalty program tool, that they did with their customers, they found that loyal customers are 70% more likely to convert through an ad. Meaning if they're loyal, it increases the probability, if you're doing retargeting campaigns, to actually buy again through those ads. Because they're loyal, it refreshes their mind, they come back, they buy, and it increases their loyalty. Another brand called Claris Commerce did a study, and they found that 86% of loyal customers will stick to their preferred brand. And then furthermore, Outbound Engine found that acquiring new customers is 5 times more expensive than investing in loyal ones. Now, these might be things that you have heard or you intuitively know. Like we obviously know if someone is part of a loyalty program, the probability of them buying again goes up, right? But we don't always know how much. And so I believe that reallocating some of your marketing dollars, some of your advertising dollars into customer loyalty is a wise move in 2023. But as far as loyalty programs go, if you're unfamiliar with how they work, the simple, plain explanation is that there are a lot of ways you can leverage them, but essentially, as your customers place orders, as they give you additional information, as they take more actions, they can receive points that they can then redeem at a future period in time. And the probability is you likely are already part of multiple. You know, maybe like me, we have our local coffee shops around here, and they usually do punch cards, and it's like, hey, every 10th, after you get 10 coffees, the 11th is free. And honestly, I've never run the math to figure out how much that is, but if a cup of coffee is, let's say $3, I have to spend $30 to save $3, which is essentially 10%, right? It's kind of like a welcome offer most brands actually use. And so you may have things like that, or you might be part of more sophisticated loyalty programs. Like let's look at Starbucks. Follow the coffee train here. So if we're looking at Starbucks, how many have a Starbucks app that is the loyalty program? How many of you use Dunkin' Donuts, or maybe you use Tim Hortons, or whatever coffee brand that might be? How many of you use the app on that and then go to those locations 95% of the time? I mean, I'm here raising my hand because whenever I travel, I do the same thing. Now, I love my pour over coffee and I love our small batch roasted from our local roastery here at the office or at my house. But when I travel, Starbucks is my go-to because it has quality that I can trust. And I know that I will get the same experience over, sometimes gambling and trying other places. And so in this episode, what I want to do is I want to cover four things that loyalty programs will actually do in my experience. I want to walk through how we're structuring them and how you can use them yourself. And then I'm going to give you just a couple tools that we've used and that a lot of our clients use to actually implement this inside their e-commerce businesses. So first things first, why should you spend the time, right? Why should you actually go into this? Because what we've seen in doing this is that loyalty programs are they're not something you just flip a switch and you turn on. Like, you have to be intentional about them. Like, you have to actually put in the work, build out the emails, build out the tiers, determine how points are actually redeemed and how they're earned, etc. So there is work in this, but there are four core drivers to why we do this, like four really, really big reasons that we see loyalty programs help our clients. And the first reason is that, number one, it increases your customer retention rate. And so I'm going to give you just some numbers as I go through these four. I'm going to give you some numbers from an actual client, like a brand that we manage and we work with. All right. So it increases customer retention. What we found was that customers last year that were part of the loyalty program, they placed on order 2.23 orders versus non-loyalty customers. They placed 1.21, meaning 62% of people buy a second time if they're a loyalty, and only 15% of people buy if they are not a loyalty. So we all intuitively know that loyalty programs will probably help us. But what are the actual reasons that they help us? From the brands that we manage and work with, I'm gonna give you four huge reasons that loyalty programs are valuable. Now, the first reason is that it increases customer retention. What we found last year, and I'm gonna give you some stats here from a brand that we work with using a tool, they have a tool called Yotpo. And what we found last year is that the average loyalty member placed 2.23 purchases versus the non-member that only placed 1.21 purchases, meaning they placed almost 2 times more orders than the people that were not part of the loyalty program. We also found that 62% of the loyalty members bought a second time versus only 15% of people repeated that were not loyalty members. The second reason the loyalty program is really valuable is they increase your average order value. That same brand, the average order value of a loyalty member was $202 versus a non-loyalty member, which was $169. The third reason we see loyalty programs really valuable is that it accelerates your lifetime value. In that example, the average lifetime value, at least in a 12-month period of time, was $450 versus $205. So $450 spent in 12 months versus $205 spent for non-loyalty members. And the reason I love this too, if I think about lifetime value, the reason this is really important is because if you can accelerate the lifetime value, it helps your ad dollars go further a lot quicker. Because, like, let's say, for example, that it usually takes you 3 months for somebody to place that second purchase. So if they came from, let's say, Facebook ads and they bought today, and let's say it takes another 90 days for them to come back and buy a second time, that's great, but what if we could get that down to less than 30 days? Let's say I could get it down to 28 or 29 days for that second purchase leveraging a loyalty program. Well, if we could do that, then we could spend more aggressively and we could hit our growth goals much, much faster. And so the third reason is that it accelerates the lifetime value. So then it condenses it rather than over a longer period of time, it makes it a lot shorter. And then that longer period of time ends up being a larger amount. And the fourth reason, and this is one that not a lot of people think about, but this is that the fourth reason is that not everybody redeems their points. This is crazy, but creditcards.com did a study and they found that nearly half of all Americans are holding on to over $21 billion in unused gift cards, according to one of the studies and the reports that they did. And according to Bankrate, 51% of US adults have not used a gift card in their household, and the average person is holding on to $116 in unused gift cards. So you might be thinking like, yeah, Josh, but those are gift cards, right? Those have dollars attached to them, and loyalty points are different. They're not like dollars. They're not like people buy loyalty points for people for gifts, right? They get those as a result of taking actions and buying more product from us. Yes, that's true. But the idea is still the same. And I want you to think about something. A lot of us think of loyalty points as something that people get with purchases, but they don't think about what if the loyalty points were actually an incentive that would then be earned as a result of buying in through different campaigns. So for example, what if you did a bonus point weekend or promotions that offered additional loyalty points? Like, hey, get 100 additional loyalty points this weekend only, instead of giving people discounts, right? So rather than giving them a discount now, we give them loyalty points worth X amount that they can then use later. And in that case, people would be buying now in exchange for points that would have a dollar value associated with them that they could redeem later. So let's say 1 point, let's make this really easy. If 1 point was equal to $1 and you gave a 20-point bonus per $100 spent for a weekend sale that you're running. Let's say you're running a sale Friday through Sunday and you said, hey, for every $100 spent, you will earn a 20-point bonus. And if people know the bonus 1 point is $1, then they know, okay, essentially, if I buy $100, I'm gonna get a $20 credit that I could use in a future time. And if they did that, they'd eventually be paying upfront for a $20 discount, or let's pretend it's a gift card, right? Let's pretend it's a $20 gift card that they're getting in exchange for that they can then use later. And then what if another scenario, you ended up just like credit cards, right? Just like a credit card, you offered people 2% earning 2% points on the purchases they placed. So they got 2% of the order value in points added to their account, just like a credit card. What if you did things like that? Well, then as you can see, people will start racking up these points, and not everybody is going to be using them. Not everybody is going to redeem their points. And so we do this with clients. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit when I talk about some of the strategy, but you could do bonus point weekends. Rather than always giving discounts, if you're doing a promotion, hey, give away points instead, because you're going to get the full retail price of the sale, and then they'll use the points at a later date. And they may not use them at a later date. So for Starbucks, the value over time, by the way, of this, I want to talk about, jump back to Starbucks here for a moment. So if you look at the loyalty program of Starbucks, all right, the average value, and I'm just gonna run some numbers on this, the average value is the average person stays for 20 years. That is the average lifetime span that Starbucks found, 20 years. So that's 52 weeks, right? And the average customer transaction was $5.90. Well, the average customer that visits Starbucks with that loyalty program visits 4 times per week. So by the time you calculate all the costs and all the profit margin, luckily Starbucks is a publicly traded company. We can look at a lot of things like this and understand their profit margin is approximately 23%. So if you take all those numbers and you add that up, if you could do the math that fast in your head, the profit that they earn in the lifetime of a customer is $5,645. Now that's the profit, that's not the gross. The gross is obviously much higher than that, but the profit is $5,600 approximately. So meaning Starbucks can afford to spend $5,600, $5,645 to acquire a customer before they lose money. Now, obviously that is amortized over a 20-year period of time. You probably don't want to go spend $5,600 a day to have a 20-year break even. Probably not wise unless you have unlimited amounts of cash to sustain that, which still is probably not a wise business decision. But if you think about it, well, why do you use the credit cards that you use? I use a Spark Business Cash Plus card, which gives us, amongst all the benefits, gives us 2% cash back on everything that we do. So we're using it for ad spend, and we're using it for, of course, a lot of regular spend, and then we're using it for subscriptions, and that pays for our team retreat and bonuses in the fourth quarter of each year. All right, so I'm just giving you reasons why this is so important, right? If other brands are leveraging this, and you can see with Starbucks, the loyalty that comes behind that, then if you can harness this in your business, maybe not on that scale over 20 years, right? Maybe your business has been maybe you've been in business for a year, you don't have that much data to go based on, but if you can harness this even in a smaller scale, it's going to impact you and it's going to give you sustainability through the next year. Now, Before I dive into the strategy, I want to talk a little bit about who I believe loyalty programs are best for, because I don't think that they are for every single business. Some businesses I've seen do really well with them, other ones not so well. And so I'm going to kind of give you both different scenarios as far as what I've seen. So the ones that I see do well with them are multi-product or replenishable product brands, or brands that have brick and mortar. So if you have an in-person location, loyalty programs are great. You can offer it right there at the front when people are checking out. But multi-product, what I mean by that is that you sell more than one product. If you sell one product, right, it's kind of hard to build loyalty when there's only one product that they can buy. Now, if you have replenishable products too, it's really good. Those are great because it encourages them to come back and continue to buy from you. If you were selling coffee, or you're selling skincare, or you're selling cosmetics or things like that, absolutely have a loyalty program, because those are replenishables. Those are things that people are going to buy over and over and over again. And if they know that by buying those things over and over and over again, through you will get them loyalty points that they could redeem for other products, then it's going to increase the probability of them buying from you. Actually, we found 62% more will repeat from you with our client I just gave an example of. 62% more likelihood that they're going to actually come back. Now, a couple examples: apparel, skincare, cosmetics, food and beverage. Those are probably the ones I see do really, really well with it, but I'm not saying that's the only list of things that you can actually do. Now, who shouldn't do them? And I don't think that you can't do them. I just believe that it's much harder to do it in this second bucket here. And that second bucket is going to be either single product or brands that have a low repurchase rate. So what I mean by that is that we had a client one time that sold rooftop tents, okay, hard shell rooftop tents. And these were like $2,700 to $3,500 items. And they had a lifetime warranty. So that's the core product. They had a couple ancillary products, but the amount of resource and effort to go into building a loyalty program for something that they will buy once and then technically because of the warranty, they won't need to buy again, didn't make a whole lot of sense. An example of this could also be Onewheel. If you're not familiar, Onewheel is really cool product. It has literally one wheel. Dylan, our producer back here, he has one, and it's kind of like skateboarding on land, or skateboarding on land, but you go forward and it moves and it's motorized, and they're a higher ticket item. I forget the price points. I'm like $1,000 to $2,000 of those, but it's primarily one product, right? They have the new versions that release and stuff, but there's only so much that you can buy from them, and you're not going to buy them that frequently. And so in my opinion, those are just much harder types of businesses to build loyalty programs on. So if you have a single product or you have a low repurchase rate, it may not be worth investing the time in this. All right, real quick, before I get to the strategy, I'm going to break down kind of what we do and a little bit about that. If you're enjoying this podcast, please forward this to another e-commerce owner that you know has products that you think are worth having a loyalty program for. So forward this, it helps get more hands, it helps other people grow, gives them new ideas, and also kind of brings them into the e-commerce alley ecosystem that we can then help in other ways as well. I'd appreciate it. All right, so our strategy, how are we gonna do this? Now, I'm gonna give you how we do this, and there are so many directions that you can go. As far as like loyalty programs, there's so many different conditions you can make for this, and a lot of the tools out there that you could use will give you examples of what those could look like. But we first start by having, and it depends on the brand, but we'll have tiered statuses. So what this could look like is a bronze, a silver, and a gold, where bronze might be the base tier, that everyone is part of the base tier. When they first come in, they become part of the base tier. The second one could be silver, where after $300 spent, you become a silver tiered loyalty member, or give it whatever kind of name makes sense. If you want to brand it, that's a better way to do it in my opinion. Silver could be after X amount of dollars spent, and then let's say gold would be like 2.5 times whatever silver is spent. So if silver's goal is $500 spent, then gold might be, hey, once you spend $1,250, that's 2.5 times, then you'll become a gold member. Now, you don't have to do this, right? You don't have to tier them off. But what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, should you treat all of your customers the same? If someone came in and spent $50 with you, and someone came in and spent $5,000 with you, or $500 with you, would you treat them the same, and should you treat them the same? What about the support costs that you have going on in the back end? right? If you're gonna if you're gonna offer really stellar support and great experience for your customers, is it worth your while to segment customers that are big spenders that have come back over and over and they've ordered 10 times or more and they're spending like the top 1% of your customers? Is it worth tearing them off somehow and then offering some kind of personalized experience for them? You know, this is a question that you have to ask yourself, but I believe yes. I believe for many scenarios, that is a great thing to do, to actually tear them off and to then occasionally segment them to have personalized offers, to have personalized experiences. And there's actually a great book out there called Hug Your Customers by Jack Mitchell, whose family owns Mitchell's stores. Maybe you've shopped in one of them. And so there's a story in there, and they give tons of stories in this book where Jack is talking, and they sold men's suits out of a little like 800 square foot men's suit, you know, retail location. And they did lots of tailoring, and they sold not high-end suits, but like kind of medium to high-end-ish suits. And what they would do is they would segment their customers by amounts spent, where it would be like, hey, if they spent between $0 and $250, we would bucket those customers into this list, and this is what we would offer them as far as our services and how we would communicate with them. If they spent $250 to $1,000, this is what we would do. And if they spent $1,000 to $2,500, and then we have the big people that spent $2,500, or I think it was like $5,000 or more with us. Those are like the big spenders, the big kahunas, right? We're gonna treat them differently. And then what they would do is they'd actually write cards, they would call people, they would open their store to tailor to them off hours, they would fix things in emergency situations on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, like just crazy scenarios. And as they started doing this, as they started segmenting customers and then putting more resources into some of those higher tiered customers, over time, that process and that strategy ended up blowing up their business, their revenue, and their profits. And so you don't have to tier things when you're building a loyalty program. I just believe it's worth at least trying, even if you just had 2 tiers, right? At least separate people that spend less than $200 with you and people that spend more than 200 or whatever that threshold might be for you. So that's the first thing. So we usually will create the tiered statuses, and then we will require that people maintain a certain amount of points per year to maintain that tiered status. Now, this is going to increase the likelihood of them continuing to buy and continuing to stay loyal. Because if they only had to spend $250 one time to get into the, let's say, the gold tier, and then they didn't ever come back, but they got all these perks. So when they came back in like 2 years, they still had all these perks that the gold members had, then they're not gonna be enticed to stay active along the way. And so we recommend that you maintain a certain amount of points per year in order to, or a certain amount spent, whatever that is, to create that tiered status, that you maintain that in order to maintain the tiered status. So it encourages the genuine loyalty. So with that in mind, here's our simple strategy. So here's what happens. Every time somebody makes a purchase, new customer comes into our ecosystem, they are automatically enrolled in the loyalty program. So their account is automatically tied, boom, they get points on that first purchase, all right? So we automatically enroll people. You don't have to. You can have a part on your website where they have to manually enroll, but we just like to remove the barrier and say, hey, did you know that by actually placing this order, you're now a loyalty member? You've earned 243 points that can be applied toward future things. Click here to view the rewards you can earn with your points, right? So it starts to get them thinking, get their gears turning, all right? So as people place purchases, they come into our ecosystem as a brand new customer, we're automatically enrolling them in our loyalty programs. Then with all purchases, they get points. We assign point values to purchases, and then that way they start racking up points. We typically don't go $1 equals 1 point because we find that it's better to give more points than less points for a dollar spent. People feel better about the number of points that they're earning. And so you could play around with what that kind of looks like. There's some recommendations that a lot of tools will have on that, but ultimately we're gonna give them points with their purchases. We're also gonna give them points for giving us more data and for referring other customers. So we might give them points to give us their birthday, right? If we can get their birthday, then we can give them a birthday reward. Starbucks does that, right? They give you a free drink on your birthday, and all of us get the notification say, hey, it's your birthday, free drink today only. And when we go in there, we usually don't just buy one coffee, we usually get multiple things. we get cake pops, or we get a snack, or we get something for someone else that we're with, right? And so by getting that information, it allows you to do other marketing efforts. You can have them taking surveys. We'll do things like that. You could get their cell phone information. So you could give points, and they can earn points by giving us more information on them, or even taking surveys and things that will then allow us to better understand our loyalty members and our customers. So we're given points for purchases, we're given points for getting more data and for referring other customers to the brand. And then on the back end of that, we have reminder emails that go out whenever they earn points or remind them if they have unused points. So by bringing this to their attention, it allows them to come back and place their orders. Think about this. If you are adding 300 new customers to your database per month, and you only have 20 of them using their points on an ongoing basis. Well, you have 280 new customers coming in that have points every single month that are going unused. So what if once a quarter you did a whole campaign push around, hey, did you know you have unused points? And you could say how many points they have, and then you could push them to use their points in some capacity. It gives you a reason to basically do campaign pushes, email, SMS, whatever that might be, to drive orders, all for the sake of using the unused points that they have earned. We'll also have emails that tell them of their tier changes, and we'll include loyalty points in every email at the top of the email. You could usually embed it within the emails that you're sending from, like, let's say Klaviyo. You can embed it in there that says you have 1,249 loyalty points, and then you could redeem now, and you could have a button right there. So it constantly reminds them that they have points, and it encourages them to continue using them. Now, with that, we'll then lean into the campaign side of things. This is where we're going to run bonus point campaigns versus always discounting. So one of the common challenges in business is that you don't want to always discount. As you discount, you start to discount your brand, and you'll start to do what's called cannibalizing your brand, where if you're constantly running promos, eventually you become Kohl's, and Kohl's has 85% going on every single day, 24/7, 365. Every day there is a sale at Kohl's. So guess what? That's no longer a sale. The existing prices after the sale are the expectation. So if they ever don't run a sale, profits are down the drain. Nobody's gonna buy because they always expect it. And so what I love about this is this gives you an additional perspective and an additional way to run a cash injection campaign, is what we call them, where every 4 to 6 weeks we're leveraging email and SMS to run some kind of a promotion. Maybe we'll tie it to a holiday, but it allows us to then say, instead of giving discounts, we say, hey, did you know you'll earn an additional X amount of points for every X amount of dollars spent today only? Or you could go product specific. If you want to push a particular product, you could say, hey, or collection, you could say, if you buy any hats from this collection today only, or this weekend only, you'll earn X amount of points for your, get X amount of points added to your account. And so it allows you to move away from always discounting, and instead you could run bonus point campaigns, or you can run, it gives you a lot of flexibility to run things in conjunction. Hey, you'll save 15% and you'll earn X amount of points as well with orders over whatever today and tomorrow only. So you can run bonus point campaigns versus always discounting, of which they can use in the future. And like we have already talked about, 51% of gift cards go unused. So we could just assume similar numbers. 51% of points will be unredeemed. And so that's not malicious, that's just the facts, right? And the fact is, not everybody's going to use their points, and rather than giving them the discount up front. Then of course, finally, we'll do special emails to certain tiers. And this isn't required. This is something that it makes sense if you have enough people in that tier. Like if I have like 4 people in my gold tier, am I gonna be sending them an email every single week? Probably not. But as that list grows, then you can start sending different offers to people in different tiers. And I'll give you an example. We work with a seafood brand that have our largest tier, our gold tier is what we call the Big Kahuna Club. So if someone gets into the Big Kahuna Club, it means that they have placed 10 orders or more with us. And most of those people have spent upwards of $5,000 to $10,000. Okay, like these are people that they love their seafood and they spend a lot of money, hundreds of dollars a month on seafood with us. And so those people, they get access to exclusive deals on certain days. And sometimes we'll have a message come from Adam, and we call it from the captain's quarters, where we say, hey, from the captain's quarters, it's written as a letter from Chef Adam. And we say, hey, we just got in a shipment of XYZ product. We only have 200 pounds of it. You're getting this because you're a Big Kahuna member. And this is first come, first serve. Once it's gone, it's gone. And this is a steal of a deal only because you're in the Big Kahuna club. And so there's this feeling of exclusivity. And when people know they're in the premium club, right? They are the top club, the Big Kahuna club. They feel this higher degree of exclusivity and loyalty, and they're more likely to spend with you. And as people go through the tiers, the final note I will add on this before I talk about a couple tools here is that as people go through the different tiers, you can offer different benefits. And so to give you an example, and I have one of these right in front of me from Made 2. So if you're a platinum member of Made 2, meaning if you spend $350 or more, they'll give you free shipping on all orders. You'll get early access to new products. You'll get a coupon code, a one-time coupon code of a deal upon entry. You'll get a birthday gift. You'll get a swag pack Groove gift pack. You'll get stickers, and you'll get free 2-day shipping if you're in the highest platinum tier. And I'm saying this to give you examples. I mean, coupon upon entering the new tier, so that's enticing. You get a birthday gift, swag pack, stickers, free shipping. So if you do these types of things, it's going to incentivize people to ascend through your different tiers so that way they can take advantage of those perks and of those bonuses. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, Josh, that all sounds really awesome. How the heck do you set all of this up? And how do you actually, from a logistical standpoint, implement this inside a business? Well, I'm gonna give you 3 tools that we use and that our clients use that are, so far, they're the best that we found. I know there are other tools that do this, but these tools will basically set it up for you. A lot of them have templates for these, and then you can kind of tweak them and tailor them. It is gonna be a time investment to sit down, to think, to plan this, and then I believe you should promote this. Promote this to your existing database, make it a new thing, and then moving forward, start automatically putting people into this and making this part of your business moving forward. So there are 3 tools that we recommend. They all are about the same amount per month if you're looking at like a monthly subscription basis. They're all usually around like $49 a month. Some of them have a little bit lower, but pretty much $50 a month to implement any of this. The first tool that we use the most that I really like is called Yotpo, YOTPO.com. So Yotpo.com, it's a great app. I believe it's platform agnostic. So you don't have to have, like, let's say Shopify in order to use it. So most of these are actually, as I'm looking at these, most of these are actually platform agnostic, so you should be good regardless of the platform that you're on. So Yotpo is one we love. We also love Stamped.io, and the last one is Smile.io. You know, most of these also have other things. You can do SMS within some of them. You can do reviews in some of them. They have different tools, but they all have loyalty programs. And these loyalty programs will walk you through doing things like setting up the tiers, point redemption, how to earn the points, the emails you should do, the integrations you should do, the automations you should do. They walk through a lot of this. And so if you've never built a loyalty program, I encourage you, consider doing it this year. Maybe you don't have to stop everything and do it right now, but consider, what would it look like for me? Does it make sense for me based on the amount of resources I'm gonna have to do? It's $50, a month to get one of these rolling. And when should I do that this year? But I believe that by building that customer loyalty, now it's going to prime you to have a more sustainable and more stable 2023 and beyond. So you have been listening to the E-Commerce Alley podcast produced by Dylan Count. We appreciate you. We appreciate you listening to this, rating the podcast, joining the Facebook group. All of you that are in there, we have a little over 25 or 2,600 people in the E-Commerce Alley Facebook group. If you're not part of it, I highly advise or recommend you do it. Go to alleypodcast.com/group or just search us in Facebook. We live stream straight from the studio every single Thursday. We have tons of additional resources in there, additional trainings, guests, all kinds of cool stuff. Go join that. You'll be glad you did, and I'll see you in the next episode.